The first time she said the word yoga, it sounded harmless, reassuring even. Something about breath and alignment, discipline and self-care. I nodded because that's what you do when your life feels stable. You don't interrogate stability. By the third trip, the word began to feel rehearsed, not false, just smooth in a way that left no room for questions. If I asked how it went, she answered before I finished speaking. If I asked where she stayed, she laughed lightly, like I'd asked something naive. Somewhere along the way, curiosity became suspicion, and suspicion became something I was taught to be ashamed of. She never raised her voice. That was part of it. She spoke like someone correcting a minor misunderstanding, never like someone defending a lie. When I said I felt uneasy, she tilted her head and told me I had always struggled with insecurity. When I pressed further, she reminded me how hard the last year had been on her. By the end of each conversation, I was apologizing. Not because I understood, but because I was tired. I began to distrust my own reactions. I started taking mental notes and then dismissing them. The dates, the timing, the way every trip seemed to leave her calmer, but me more hollow. I told myself this was what support looked like. You swallow discomfort. You don't make someone else responsible for your unease. The moment everything shifted was not dramatic. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Our phone plan had flagged a billing issue, and I logged in to fix it. Her device was listed under the same account. I noticed the location history tab by accident, or at least that's what I told myself. I hovered over it longer than I should have. There was no spike of adrenaline when I opened it, just a slow tightening awareness. Dates aligned neatly with her trips. So did addresses. Always the same motel off the highway. Nothing exotic. No secrecy, no cleverness. Just repetition. What unsettled me most was how boring it looked. Betrayal without flair. I sat there longer than necessary, scrolling back months, feeling something inside me settle rather than break. I wasn't angry yet. I was relieved. Not because she'd lied, but because I hadn't imagined it. I printed the pages and folded them once, carefully. I didn't confront her that night. I wanted to notice how easily I could now see the pattern in our conversations, how often she spoke ahead of me, how quickly she reframed discomfort as dysfunction. I wanted to be sure I wasn't rushing, that I wasn't doing what she'd always accused me of. When I finally placed the papers on the kitchen table, she didn't look at them right away. She looked at me. Her expression carried a familiar patience, the kind reserved for someone about to be corrected. "You went through my location history?" she said. Not "what is this?" Not "how do you know?" Just offense delivered cleanly. I told her yes. She exhaled, slow and deliberate. Said this was exactly what she meant about trust, about control, about my need to monitor her movements. For a moment, the old gravity pulled at me, the urge to explain myself, to soften the impact, to clarify that I hadn't meant, but I didn't speak. She finally glanced down. Her eyes paused on the address, on the repetition. Something flickered there, brief and practical, like recalculating a route. "You're spiraling," she said quietly now. "This isn't proof of anything." "I know," I replied, and that surprised both of us. I told her I had already spoken to a lawyer, that the accounts were separated that morning, that I wasn't asking for an explanation. I wasn't negotiating terms. I was informing her of a decision. The room felt different after that. Not tense, final. She asked if I was serious. I nodded. She didn't cry. She didn't confess. She just grew still, as if realizing that whatever tools had worked before no longer applied. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. There were logistics, signatures, a few clipped conversations. No dramatic unraveling. Friends asked what happened, and I told them we wanted different things. That wasn't untrue. What lingered longer was the work of recalibration. Sitting in therapy, learning to identify when doubt was earned and when it had been installed, replaying old conversations and hearing how often I'd been redirected away from my own perceptions. I stopped asking myself if I had overreacted. Some nights I still think about the motel, about how small the lie really was. But I understand now that the damage wasn't in where she went. It was in how often I was taught to look away from what I saw. Trust, I learned, isn't something someone gives you back. It's something you stop surrendering. And that finally felt like alignment.